Hello there. Strange times we are living in, right? It really is. I just want to let everyone know, first of all, hello. Let's just start with the moment of gratitude. The very first thing we can do is, just take a breath and say, or feel how grateful we are that we're able to do that, because there are people right now that are not able to. So I will say I have gone down the rabbit hole the last few days, and fortunately, in the last 24 hours, I've claimed back out. And I'm sure many of you have felt this way, that you're constantly refreshing Google, you're constantly looking at the news. And I'm not saying that ignorance is bliss at all. But at the same time, we've got to control a little bit of the input that we're getting in, because it is a slippery slope. And one of the first things we need to do to stay physically healthy is stay mentally healthy, and to watch the amounts of stress that we're allowing into our lives and our bodies. But as I started reflecting yesterday and went back to some of my tools that I know help me feel better, such as meditation and journaling, I realized that a lot of my life has prepared me for moments like this, and really they all have. And I felt compelled to share some of the resources that I have been researching and creating. So over the next couple of days, here is what you can expect to see. I'm going to come on and talk live and share this. Creating certainty. Certainty really helps to eliminate stress, and how to create a schedule, especially since most of us are at home. How do you work well from home if you've never worked from home, if you're attempting to work from home, or you're even trying to now create income from home? How to stay mentally healthy and to reduce stress. How to stay physically healthy. And for those of you out there that are parents that are home with your kids right now, how to keep your kids laughing and learning during this time. And I'm going to be sharing those resources in a link. So if you do want to get updates daily, I'll be sharing it on Facebook and on my podcast. And I'll also be sharing the resources and links each day in an email. I will provide the email link where you can find this and get notified each day when it comes out. Here's what you are not going to see from me. I am not going to be doing updates every day of what's going on in the news, because while it is good to be somewhat informed, there's also so much out there that is just going to create stress. And it's just too rapidly moving that by the time you read it, or by the time you listen to me, it'll probably be outdated. But what you will get is you'll get really real tips from someone who is a research junkie. My degree is in journalism. I worked as an investigative journalist who also grew up nearly off the grid on a farm in Oregon. And that over the last 20 years or so, I've evolved into a business and lifestyle designer. And what that means is I'm obsessed with how we can choose to bring organization, resources, and really light into every situation and make them better. And yes, this is a hard time right now, but there's always the ability to optimize and improve it. Okay. So if you're interested in feeling a little bit more in control of your life right now, or feeling a little bit more positivity in the situation, or just on resources on how to save time and mental energy, let's get started. So the first tip I want to share today, and hopefully every day, is on one way that you can just be a good human being. You guys, I get that this is a time of crisis, and I get that this is a time that there is a lot of pain and suffering out there, and there's a lot of panic, but this does not stop us from being human beings, not human doings, okay? There's not a time that is more important than a time where people are in stress and in pain. So this morning when I went to Whole Foods, 7:50, waiting outside with my cart, with my gloves and my sanitizer and all of those things, don't forget that the people working in those stores are human beings. And people are so stressed out, and that's I'd say normal. It's becoming our new normal, but it's understandable. But understand that when you're in a store, as stressed out as you are, how you can show up. So number one, today I looked in the eyes of every single person that was at Whole Foods that was working. I said, thank you so much for being here. Those people are at that grocery store because they need to put food on the table for their families. They're there to pay their bills as well, right? And so we do not need to create more stress on their situations, because they're already physically in an unsafe situation. So look every person in the eye and thank them for showing up so that you can go and get the groceries or the whatever it is that you're purchasing. Just thank them. And so many people today, there was probably 15 or 20 employees there. And I just stopped everyone and just looked them in the eye and said, thank you so much. And it makes me emotional. It made them emotional because I knew that people were not being looked at as human beings. And to the other people in the grocery store, the person that might be angling their cart ahead of you, or the person that might have grabbed that thing you were about to grab, there are people that are living paycheck to paycheck. There are people that are putting these groceries on credit cards that they don't have the money to pay balance because they don't have a job to go back to because the restaurant they worked at is shut. Or, you know, they may be teachers that they're out of school now. I mean, you just don't know what someone else's situation is, and understand that they may be choosing that bag of rice or that bag of toilet paper, and they may be knowing that they're purchasing that and they don't have money to pay bills. Okay, so please just have compassion for everyone out there. They're doing their best. And when you stop, my nose is running, when you stop the flow of negativity that is going on, when you bring light into these situations, what happens is you give people the reminder, oh my gosh, this feels really good to connect as a human being. And that will spread. I mean, we're worried about the virus spreading, but let's spread positivity and light. Okay, so that's number one. Also, government workers. If you're out there at the post office or wherever, government workers don't have the option to stay home like so many of us do, or being told to. They're told to show up to work to keep things going, like the mail service. And so understand that they don't want to be there either. So please show them some grace and some compassion. Okay, I should have got tissues. I'm not sick. Number two, ask yourself, how do you want to feel through this? Understand that we are in strange times, right? I'm sure for those of you that were alive and were older than the age of 8 and during 9/11 can remember exactly where you were when you found out about the towers being hit. This is going to be a time that defines who we are as human beings. And we have to decide right now, if we don't create an intention around it, about how we want to feel and show up, it's going to be a scary time. It's going to be scary regardless. Well, we just choose how much we allow ourselves to feel that. So how do you want to feel through this? Like, how do you want to show up? And so be intentional about creating that state. Like for me, my normal ideal B state is relaxed, abundant, and joyous. And right now I am saying it's calm. I'm just taking a lot of breaths, focused and present. And ask yourself, what do you need to do in order to feel that way? And it's not just what you need to do on a daily basis. It could be moment to moment. It could be, all right, for me to feel calm, focused, and present, I might want to go to the grocery store before it opens. Or I might say, no, the idea of standing in line is going to freak me out. I'm going to go at night. But it's also about just waking up and the first thing I look at is Google and coronavirus. Is that going to allow me to feel calm, focused, and present? Maybe not. Maybe I'm going to do a check-in once a day on NPR, or something of that sort. But what do you need to do to feel that way? And you literally, I made a list yesterday when I was really feeling overwhelmed. I made a list. I said, what makes me feel positive? And it was things like meditating, movement, playing a game with my child, helping someone else. I wrote down, and the list of things that made me feel positive was long. It was like 12 things I thought of in 20 seconds. And the list of what makes me feel negative was literally consuming social media, negative social media, because there are still definitely people that are putting positivity and light out there. It was, number 2 was Google basically right now. Sorry, Googling resources, but Googling anything related to what's going on does not make me feel good right now. Going down the rabbit hole, following certain people, does not make me feel good right now. So the things on that negative list, I am choosing to minimize. I'm being intentional. I'm going to share a podcast episode. It was my second episode when I launched my Becoming You podcast. And I think it will really help people, but it's called The Secret to Having It All. But it's not about having at all. It's really about defining how you want to be and living with intention. And that episode just goes more into it. It has a little meditation. And I think with so many people being in lack mentality, like you go to the grocery store, they may not be the things that you need. You're like, oh my gosh, I need hand sanitizer or toilet paper or whatever it is. Understand that right now it's so easy to be in that lack mentality, but let's focus on how we want to be. Okay, tip number 3 is let's talk about being prepared, the basics on food. So I'm going to talk about fresh, frozen, and shelf stable. But before we get into food, toilet paper. I know that's the thing that everyone is stressing out about right now. If you have a Toto, you are in really good shape. But also think about, if for those of you out there that have had a vaginal birth, yes, I said vagina, squeeze bottles. When you have a vaginal birth, you don't want to use toilet paper the first few weeks after. So you get these little squeeze bottles that allow you to sanitize yourself with just tap water. So if you either have those from having a baby, or you can go out and get those at a place like CVS, those are a great resource right now that do not involve needing toilet paper. Okay. Next, food, fresh. Ideally get foods that can be stored without refrigeration, potatoes, apples, things of that sort, that you can later cut up or cube and freeze once they're getting close to not being good to eat anymore. Waste not, want less, okay? Fresh foods also, like this is a time to load up the fridge with fresh veggies, fresh fruit, if you breads, ideally gluten-free, because I'm all about reducing inflammation. Inflammation creates stress in our immune system. And right now there's enough stress and there's enough immune threats out there that we need to do everything we can from a food standpoint to not add stress to our systems. So fresh foods, load up now with fresh foods, because this is the time to be eating it. I'm not saying anything. I'm not making predictions about how our access is to grocery stores, but if we look at what's going on in other countries that are a week to 2 weeks ahead of us in the virus, at the very least, access to stores is being limited, whether that's hours or how many people can be in the store at a time. So the current culture that we're used to up to a week ago of having everything on demand when we want it all of the time, we understand that this right now is a different type of normal. Things are changing, and so we need to assume that we need to be prepared. Frozen foods. So if you're getting frozen foods, go with dense items like lean meats. If you are a meat eater, for me as a plant-based eater, I'm getting the Beyond grounded beef because it takes the least amount of room in my freezer versus even like the Beyond patties. Frozen veggies are great. What I would not buy is don't buy frozen potato, like frozen hash browns, because you can buy real potatoes and then cube them up. That takes up a lot of room, and some of that is air. So you want to be able to pack your freezer as efficiently as possible, but get those dense items. Shelf stable. Everyone is thinking about beans and rice and they're all going out. Oh, back to frozen veggies. Frozen veggies, especially organic, just like peas, corn. When you add peas and corns together, they're a complete protein. And they're also a great food for teethers, for babies. Make sure they don't choke, but they're great for toddlers. They like them frozen. It's fun. Frozen veggies are wonderful. You can freeze bread to keep it longer. So think about those frozen dense items. Don't load up on frozen pizzas because they take up a ton of room and they're just not a lot of nutrition. Don't count calories, count nutrition right now. Well, and always. Back to shelf stable. So everyone's thinking about beans and rice, but think about things like lentil pasta. Lentil pasta is so much better than normal pasta because it's got anywhere from 18 to 25 grams of protein, which is meaning you can have a plant-based meal and get tons of protein. And then of course you can get sauces for it that are going to be shelf stable in your pantry. So I've been loading up with things like crackers. Simple Mills is my favorite brand because they're gluten-free. Speaking of that, I'm hungry right now. And lentil pasta, beans and rice if you can get it. Canned tuna. Again, we're plant-based. I'm even loading up with canned tuna. Almond butters, your coconut oils, things that can give you healthy fats. Raw cashews, raw almonds, etc. For those of you, I know a lot of you that follow me use isogenic shakes. I just put in some big orders this weekend. And for those of you that aren't, I'll share my link. But I put in big orders for everything that was immune related. Just make sure you stock up on shakes while they're still shipping. And lastly, make cooking fun. A lot of us have gotten really used to the convenience of having food delivered, having groceries delivered, eating out. This is a time that we're going back to the way life was 30 or 40 years ago when there wasn't all of those options, or maybe 50 years ago. Make it fun, involve your family in cooking. Okay, tip number 4 is when to shop. This is going to vary depending on where you're at. I know I just talked to a friend of mine in Connecticut, in the tri-state areas. We're in Northern California and they are starting to mandate curfews and things. So understand that if you go shopping early, I have gone the last couple of days with, full protective gear on, and I've gone early before the stores open. And so yes, I'm one of the first 10 people in, but if I'm not out in 15 minutes, I'm in line, usually waiting in line for another 20 or 30 minutes because people are trying to get in and out fast. So understand that if you go early, it might mean that there's long checkout lines. social distance yourself, make sure you're sanitizing everything, make sure you're wearing gloves. Going late night before closing also works, especially for stores that restock. Often just call your stores and ask customer service, like, hey, when is the best time today? I mean, they'll give you that information. They don't want to be inundated either. Grocery stores, Costco, Walmarts, or Sam's Clubs are getting really hard hit kind of all day long. But I will say today, right after I left Whole Foods, I went over to Rite Aid to get batteries for the smoke detector, and there was nobody in there. And there were so many of the items that you could get at a grocery store. So one, even freezer items are often there, but things like batteries, Band-Aids, saline solution for your nose, if you're doing, getting medicine or Tylenol. So there's a lot of options there, and those stores are much less crowded because they don't typically have the fresh items. So consider going there that are a little less crazy. And then online resources. Don't rely on Amazon, because right now Amazon Fresh isn't even delivering, or like the Whole Foods app is not delivering. Right now you can go weeks out and it's not showing any delivery times. So here's what I'll say about where I normally shop online and the current, as of today, wait times. Grove Collaborative, which I get healthy like cleaning supplies and things from, like non-toxic. They're 7 days out or more for shipping. I put in an order last week. I haven't gotten it yet. Public Goods. So that's publicgoods.com. I just discovered them a few weeks ago. They're really great, typically organic items, food items, things like pasta, think kind of like a Thrive Market, but mostly organic, white label, also cleaning supplies. And currently they don't have a notice on delayed shipping. I don't know if that means that they don't have it or they just haven't updated, but currently they're still shipping. Thrive Market is delayed 1 to 2 weeks. That doesn't mean you shouldn't order, because as long as it shows up, you're going to still need food in 2 to 3 weeks. Isogenics. Right now, as far as I know, there's no delay in shipping. I put in some orders on Friday that shipped out Saturday and are expected to be delivered Monday or Tuesday. And I'll share what I get. I mean, there's so many good items there, but like right now for me, I'm stocking up on shakes because they are shelf stable for up to 6 months. And right now that's a complete macronutrient meal. And when you're out of fresh food and veggies, again, not saying that you will be, not saying the stores will be, but if that situation happens, it's good to be able to get 2 to 3 servings of fruits and vegetables in a complete meal. Also, the immunity spray is amazing. I've been taking 5 squirts of that every day. The immune powder, which is a mushroom mix, I've been adding that into my smoothies every day, and actually adding it into my kids' water because it doesn't taste like anything. Sleep support spray if you're having a hard time sleeping because of stress at night. What else? Oh, Ionics. Ionic Supreme, which is a adaptogen blend. It helps reduce stress levels. That's a huge one right now. I've been doubling and tripling up every day because I have a big supply of that. And then, of course, there's things like bone broth, and there's protein snacks. There's so many good options. And again, things that are going to be shelf stable. And Isogenics is still shipping. They're based out of Arizona, but they're typically their shipping times are anywhere from 2 to 3 days. Right now, it might be a little longer, but they're still shipping. So if you're a customer, load up. If you're not a customer, I'm going to drop my link in where you can get whatever you want. And they have no membership fees right now. They've waived all membership fees. So you can go in and get customer pricing or wholesale pricing without paying anything. So think of it like Costco online without having to go in and touch the carts. Okay. And then lastly, tip number 5 is a positive listen. Right now, a lot of us are home. I think a lot of people are consuming a lot of social media. I think they're consuming a lot of TV. I know I went the other night to look for something funny on TV and like just something lighthearted on Amazon or Netflix. And it showed what was new and trending was the movie Contagion from 2011. I watched the preview and I was like, oh, heck no. Like that is not what I need to see right now, is what I'm living, but fictionalized to be even more scary. So a positive listen, the most important thing you can feed yourself, yes, is healthy food, but even more importantly is what you're feeding your mindset. So listen to podcasts more than news. Now, my 3 favorite podcasts right now, and again, I'll share these links. My own podcast, Becoming You. If you have made it through the last 19 minutes of listening to me, then, and you want more, you like more of it, then go to the Becoming You podcast. I've got a lot of things on there about optimizing your life, about reducing stress, about healthy habits, about dealing with fear. I mean, basically everything we're dealing with right now is what I talk about all the time. My friend Carrie Keating, one of my best friends, she has the Work Hard, Mom Hard podcast. And if you are a mama, or actually anybody out there that wants resources on working from home, on creating spaciousness in your life, feeling great, she's got a lot of similar content, and she's just she keeps it so real. She constantly inspires me. I love her. Thank you, Carrie, for just being you. And then my mentor, Kayla Craft, she has the Mommy Millionaire podcast, and it's a really business driven and lifestyle driven. But listen, I know it feels like a lot of us are not concentrating on our businesses, but the reality is that people are out there, they're still working, entrepreneurs. Like, this is a time more than ever to be focused. Okay. It is so easy to get distracted right now. It is more important than ever to be focused, even with the R word, recession, that we may be going into. There will always be people out there putting out things. There will always be people out there consuming things. And at the end of the day, you want to be the person that people are following. In this time of uncertainty, you want to be the one that is adding value. And if you put your hands up in the air and say, oh my gosh, no one is ever going to buy whatever it is that I'm selling, sharing, etc., you're right. But if you're out there saying, you know what, I'm going to deliver value because people still want it, you're also right. When I went through the real estate recession in 2008, 9, 10, I mean, I literally had made $1 million in 3 years and then lost $1 million in 3 years. I didn't lose it because I knew exactly where it went. But I remember a lot of the employees I worked with who had been around for 10, 20 years in real estate, they were standing by the water cooler or in the lunchroom, and they were complaining, and they were saying, oh, no one's ever going to buy a house again. This is not going to go on. I mean, it was just like they were constantly thinking, like, what is the worst case situation, right? Not being prepared for the worst case, but visualizing what the worst case was. And so as a result, that's what they experienced. And I will say ignorance was bliss at the time. I don't feel like ignorance is bliss here. It's the balance of being prepared, but then also being positive and like being intentional about what you allow into your world. But at the time, I didn't have anything to compare what we were going through to. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to keep selling because there still are people walking in the door. And even though it might've been 90% less foot traffic of people walking in to purchase a home in a new home community, there was still foot traffic. And what that meant is I continued to sell homes, and I still that year made, $50,000 to $70,000 more than some of the people that were like, just, they mentally shut down. So if you're out there, don't mentally shut down. Okay. Climb out of the rabbit hole, use the resources I provided, and be intentional about how you're going to continue to move forward in your life, because we are going to come out of this. Okay. And so you've got to figure out how are you going to come out of this physically and mentally and financially. And it is possible by taking control and taking radical responsibility for your own experience to come out. And when you do that, you are going to shine light and lift other people out as well. So again, just to kind of recap what I'm going to be talking about the next couple of days. And if you have a preference, if you're watching this live, if you have a preference on what you'd like to see, I really am feeling called to share about creating certainty and how to create a schedule from home so that you can have some consistency in your life, how to work well from home, especially for people that are working, that don't work for themselves normally, so they're not used to this. And then for entrepreneurs, we can always be better, how to stay mentally healthy and reduce stress, how to stay physically healthy, especially given limited options right now, and then how to keep your kids laughing and learning while they're home from school. Guys, stay grateful. We're going to get through this together, and I'm here to support you in any way I can.